What is your name and where were you born?
She was born in 1908, and she was born in the village of Bak Su Pong Long Tong, in a rural farm area. She said that in 1931, when she came with her husband to Tucson, things were very rough at that time, very hard working. Business was slow. It was difficult to make a living. She also had a newborn baby, and at that time had many complications health-wise. And she had to spend many hours along with her husband, not only to run the business, but also oversee her sick child, to get the child to the point where she was able to get the child healthy. And at that time, it was very rough for her. In 1947, the family came to Tucson. 45. Okay. So in 1945, they came back to Tucson after the war, and they were renting a store at the time, running their own business. In 1951, they saved up enough money, and they built their own store, and they named it A&A Market.
How difficult was it to get a liquor license?
At that time, liquor licenses were not, you couldn't get a liquor license. You had to buy an existing one. They weren't issuing anymore. They were very restricted. And so liquor licenses were valued highly. So we had a friend who had an extra license. He had a couple of them. He was using one, and he had another one. And he was willing, someone asked him to sell it, and he had give a price, and the person that asked him thought it was too high, and my mother heard about it, and then she asked him about it. He said, well, if you want it, he'd give it to her at a lower price, which was $4,000 instead of $4,500. And so she said, well, she'd like to have it, but she didn't have the money at the time, and he offered to just sell her the license and let her pay it off in payments as she could without any particular timetable. And so that's how I got the license. And that was very important in the business, because that kind of gave you a leg up on the competition, because not everyone could get a license. And so from that, at that time also there's a fair trade on the liquor. The beer and wine is what actually we did, not liquor, just the beer and wine. And so there was fair traded, and so you got a definite markup, and you know, it's like cash only, no credit on the beer and wine. You didn't have to offer any credit on it, so people just paid in cash. And then there was also at that time, the Indians were not allowed to buy liquor. You couldn't sell to Indians, except for certain ones. I believe it was the Yaqui Indians you could sell to, but the Papago or some of the others, you were not. And so that was the distinction. They had a card also that.
Since she couldn't read, the only way that she could identify which group of Indian reservations were able to go ahead and sell to, she memorized the initials of the letterings, so that if it was a certain initial, she could sell. If it wasn't a certain initial, then she wouldn't sell at all. And at that time, her husband didn't want to keep the license. He wanted to give it up, because there was a lot of jealousies of being able to have a license and sell and be one up on the competition. So he didn't want to go through that. So she inducted her older son and said, "If your father doesn't want to help, will you help me?" to her son. And he said, "Sure, I'll help you." So that's what brought the family together and was able to survive and run a successful business. She said that it was rough when she would open up since she had 2 children. She basically would wake up at 6 a.m. to cook breakfast for her young kids. She'd only have two pieces of bread per person to share, to actually give to her children to eat. At that time, that was how they survived, and they would eat only bread. Mexican bread is what she said. She would open up at 7 a.m. for business, and then she wouldn't close down until 9 a.m. that evening. So the hours were long, and it was very difficult to basically make ends meet because those hours were so long. She said that nobody would lend her money to buy anything, and if they did lend them money, it was a high interest. This picture was taken at the time when her husband and her were just coming from shopping, and someone said, "Let's take a photograph of you," and this was a very casual picture of them going out. Oh, this is the first market that they opened when they first came to Tucson to do their business. So this is A&A Market number 1, and then the other picture, which was here, was A&A Market number 2. So this was A&A Market number 2, and this here was A&A Market number 1. And funny saying is that they're only 1 block from each other at the time.
Can you describe the vehicle?
The vehicle was purchased at the time to make deliveries for groceries and pick up groceries, and that's why they purchased the car, so that they would be able to pick up groceries and make deliveries to clients.
Who are the members in this picture?
This is Edward, this is Howard.
Okay.
You're Dillon's father.
Okay.
And this is Victor. Well, the order was, this is number 1, number 2, number 3. There's the daughter, and then number 4, number 5, number 6 son.
Okay. She said when she was raising all the kids, she says that when she was washing the clothes, she would be washing the clothes, customers would come, she'd drop everything, take care of the customers, and then after she took care of the customers, she'd just go back and clean the clothes again. And so it was a non-stop day. Every day that she woke up, she would be always working, never stopped. And she said, "Yeah, tú sé." So she says, "This is how you work yourself to death." But 101, that's not too bad. 104. Yeah. 104.
What do you like? What is your life like today?
She says that. She says life is simple right now. Watch TV, occasionally play mahjong with her friends at the cultural center. At the time, earlier, before the cultural center, they would have 3 tables in the kitchen, and they would have a private mahjong party with all her close friends, and they would have so much fun, and everybody would be laughing all the time. Her niece at the time was only 11 years old, and she already knew how to play mahjong, and they were laughing, and the family, in a way, it brought the family together, and that was how everyone socialized and how everybody interacted with each other. Perfect.